Hey guys, I'm Emily. I'm a lawyer, and this week I'm talking about how I balance content creation on top of having a fairly demanding full time job. The short answer is I don't. Just kidding. It is very complicated though and pretty challenging, and so I feel like I've been able to find good ways to kind of balance both. And so I figured this might be helpful if there's anyone out there who is listening and is interested in content creation, but the demands of your full-time job are legitimately keeping you from doing so. So number one, and I think this is really the most important piece, is standing behind your content. I personally know of people who are out there running their mouths about my content, and when I first started posting on TikTok over a year ago, this was definitely a really tough pill to swallow, but then I realized the people who are shit talking my content already hated me for some other reason, and the content just confirmed what I already suspected. Because people who are your true friends are never going to dump on you for trying something new and doing something that really a lot of people don't have the ability to do. Most people don't have the stomach to put themselves out there on the internet and be vulnerable to criticism and other people's opinions. I mean, that's a really hard thing to do. And so I think that, just a fair warning, and I'm saying this lovingly, I'm holding your hand as I say this. If you start creating content, you will find out pretty quickly who your real friends are. So, kind of slightly shifting gears, especially in law, the professionalism aspect is a very real consideration. So, before I post anything, I ask myself three things. One, am I okay with my boss seeing this? Two, am I okay with a client seeing this? And three, am I okay with the board of bar overseers seeing this? As long as the answer to all three is yes, I will post it and I will fully stand on it, and I'm willing to suffer whatever consequences will come of it. And that's, I think, really important because, people are going to see it. People are going to talk about it. And so I think it's really important as a creator to be mindful of, hey, anything I'm posting, I am fully willing to stand on this. I think especially in early stages, my currently most viral TikTok and Instagram reel, it didn't really perform that well when I first posted it. And on each platform, for TikTok, it was 2 months, for Instagram, it was 1 month. Suddenly, almost out of nowhere, it kind of just took off. And so that's why I find it really important, even if a video doesn't perform that well, to make sure that it's something that I'm fully willing to stand on. Number two is my tiered platform approach. So YouTube is fairly new for me, but I actually recently launched Instagram about a month and a half ago. TikTok was over a year ago, but I rebranded as Gen Z Lawyer in November. And so really having a balance for all three platforms has been really important. So TikTok is kind of my sandbox. I usually post between 1 to 3 times a day on TikTok. Over the past week, it's been more like once a day because I've just had a lot more going on in my day job, and that's just sometimes how the cookie crumbles. But TikTok is really my sandbox for kind of where I test new content. YouTube, I really started this because I wanted to be able to dive into more substantive self-development topics that otherwise don't perform as well on TikTok or Instagram. And then Instagram, I pretty much just post my best performing TikToks. So it's kind of helpful. Instagram's been growing a lot quicker for me. I guess I should just take it with a grain of salt because after all, I am posting content that I've already tested on another platform and that I know people like. But I think it's interesting between all three platforms. It's not necessarily the exact same performance on each one, but it's helpful to just kind of get more feedback in real time. I can't definitively confirm this. This is from Claude, but at least TikTok's algorithm is a lot more friendly for posting more frequently. Whereas on Instagram, if you're posting too often, you could be flagged as a BOT. So that's why I kind of like to use TikTok as my testing ground. And I think too, on top of the tiered platform approach, also just having very rigid systems. For every day and for every week, I have a very specific checklist of non-negotiable items that I have to get done, especially recently with getting more brand deals, making sure that I'm filming content and editing it and submitting it in a reasonable time frame definitely gets a little messy on top of my day job. Like even right now, it's I think a little after 8. But I did work late today, and so I was kind of like, crap, the last thing, not necessarily the last thing I want to do. I love this, but I don't necessarily feel like sitting down and filming a whole YouTube video, but I know this is something I really wanted to talk about, and so I'm doing it anyways. So that's definitely, I think having those checklists and systems in place. I personally am a huge fan of Leila Hormozi, and something that she really preaches is on your tough days, it's easier to get through them when you stick to the plan that you made on a good day. And I think that's really important because, at least for me too, my creative juices definitely ebb and flow. And so on days when I'm more tired, it's really challenging to just pick up the phone and film. Like I said, I usually aim for 3 posts a day on TikTok. Lately, it's been more like 1 post a day, but at the very least, on days that I'm tired, I will force myself to at least post something. I won't necessarily force myself to do 3 posts a day because I don't necessarily want to just put out mediocre content in order to meet an arbitrary benchmark. So a couple of those checklist items for me will be, sitting down to film my YouTube video, making sure I make time to edit. Especially YouTube is definitely the most labor intensive platform that I'm currently working with. Instagram's a bit easier just because I'm just reposting TikToks, but especially with TikToks, making sure that I'm giving myself the time to film and edit has really been important to me. And then also with, I haven't been using TikTok Shop as much lately because it hasn't really been doing much for me, but I've been using Tribe lately, and Tribe is a platform that allows content creators to apply for brands, create videos, submit them, and then the brands run them as paid ads, and then you get a certain percentage of commission. And so if you're interested, link is in my bio, but definitely would check it out. So especially with Tribe and working with more brands, just having my weekly routine of listing out which brands I need to film that week, because that way, if I do it at the beginning of the week, then sometimes an idea just comes out of nowhere. And so if I plan it out at the beginning of the week, it's a lot easier for me to hit those benchmarks without necessarily having to think too much about it. Number 3 is time blocking. This has been really crucial because there are points where I have some downtime in my day job, and it gets really tempting to go start looking at trending topics or look for brands to submit requests to. Particularly for me, like whenever I don't know what to post, I will look at trending topics and see how I can tie that to my niche. And that's a pretty slippery slope as far as just going almost into full-scale doom scrolling from just a simple check of trending topics. And so what I've started doing is, if I am in a situation where, say, like I'm looking at Tribe or I'm looking at trending topics, I'll tell myself, okay, I'm gonna let myself do this for the next 5 minutes, and then I have to give myself a hard stop, no questions asked. And I think too, with the balance of my day job, I often tend to work late because a lot of my team are in different time zones. So my hours are a bit blurry. It's not necessarily like a firm 9 to 5. Those are also times where it's like, okay, in the evening, I want to think about content, but I really just have to put it down and focus on whatever it is I need to get done for the day. And so I found that time blocking has been really helpful, and holding myself accountable, that's really key, and making sure that I'm not blending the two worlds too much, because I think that can get fairly sticky fairly quickly, because naturally, like, my niche is legal content. So I'll think of a funny joke at work or something that gives me content inspiration, and in the moment I kind of want to just lean into it right away. And so I'll just write it down and focus on it later during a time block that I've actually given myself in order to work on content. Finally, and I think also really important, is kind of the self-care aspect of this. First and foremost, like I said earlier, people on the internet can be pretty mean. And so there were times earlier in my content journey that I checked the restricted comments because I just couldn't help myself. And there was just no need for that. That's one. Second, I think too, at the end of the day, all engagement is good engagement. So if people are reacting negatively to a video, the fact that they actually took the time out of their day to do that is ultimately helping me. So I've kind of, it has gotten funnier. At first, mean comments used to really bother me, and now I'm at a point where I'm like, you know what? If this person is actually taking time out of their day to say this heinous thing to me, like, that says a lot more about them than about me. So, God bless, praying for you, seriously. Anyways, but even aside from that, what I've actually found to be a lot more essential to this whole journey is, for me, as you can probably tell if you've made it this far in the video, like, my mind runs at 1,000,000 miles a minute. And I have to give myself downtime to just exist. Especially with this whole content thing, I am often doom scrolling. I really get sucked into the wormhole of these platforms, and I'm constantly wanting to check how videos are doing, check the comments. It really sucks me in, and it's been really challenging to keep things separate. And so what I've decided to do is every morning and every night, I force myself to take at least an hour of no screens whatsoever. It's a little easier in the morning because I usually wake up around 5:30 and I'll do a 6:30 workout class. And then once I'm done with the workout class, I'll check my socials for the morning, respond to any comments, whatever have you. But at night, it's been really challenging naturally because I wake up at 5:30. I get tired pretty early. So at night, it's been a lot harder to really kind of cut myself off at a certain hour and give myself that time to just think. I think too, I haven't been doing it lately because it's been so hot outside. It's, mid-July as I'm filming this. If any of you are fans of the Iced Coffee Hour, I think it was about a year ago I watched an episode with Daniel Priestley, and I think it was one of the single best podcast episodes I watched as far as like professional development advice. And he said to go for a walk without your headphones, because if you're consuming, you're not creating. And lately I haven't been doing it this much, but I really need to get back to it because I found that just going on a walk and just allowing myself to think has been such a valuable self-regulating tool that I feel like that's really where the magic happens. Like when I'm just sitting alone, no music, no screen, just a pen and paper, that's where I come up with all of my best ideas and why I'm here filming this video. So I definitely would encourage you. I think, self-care has gotten very commercialized, and I think it can be a lot more simple than that. Even just giving yourself the space to exist and think, I think, is an underrated luxury in today's world for sure. So anyways, if you are a lawyer who does content creation, or you have a full-time job and you're really into content creation, I'd love to hear any thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram and TikTok for up-to-date dark humor. And hopefully I see you next week. Thanks for watching.